It's podcast day. It's podcast day. Welcome in. Woolly hair is fun. Welcome in, friends. Welcome. Welcome back. Welcome for the first time. Welcome to the heyBrownBerry podcast. My name is Mars. You can find me in all the online places as heyBrownBerry. And you can find me out here on YouTube chatting about my making journey. If you haven't been here before, I hope that you will be glad you landed in this corner of the internet. And if you're visiting me again, it is always good to have you here. I am sitting down in front of the camera today to spend a few minutes chatting about my 2021 word of the year. I have long since given up the habit of New Year's resolutions. I don't judge anyone who sets New Year's resolutions because I really feel like goal setting is something that comes up in our lives over and over again. And for those who choose to do it at the beginning of the year, I wish them well. I have decided not to do it because I am a person who needs to change my goals and the tracking of those goals constantly. I don't find a lot of success in trying to chart out long periods of time. I just change my mind too often, and my priorities change, so I have to allow myself to either change the measurement of my own wish list and goals or change the goals themselves as I can. And the flexibility to do that is also something that I have to work on constantly. So I don't do the traditional New Year's resolutions. However, for the last few years, I have chosen a word of the year. And that word of the year is meant to set some kind of intention for myself. It's meant to be somewhat of a loose parameter. It helps me to remember some concept to focus on. As an example, in years past, I've chosen words like ritual, and we'll talk about in a minute how that's related to one of the projects I want to show you. Ritual is a word I chose because at one time I really resisted routine. I really did not think of myself as someone who enjoyed repeat activity, doing the same thing every day, sinking into a kind of a practice of anything over and over again. When I chose the word ritual, it was because I was acknowledging that that is an important concept. Acknowledging that the practice of things that are healthy and helpful is very good and is useful. So I wanted to include more ritual in my life. And it wasn't always something traditionally ritualistic like a yoga practice or something like that. Sometimes it was just the ritual of a hot beverage in the morning or taking a walk whenever I started to feel agitated, just some repeat action. And I also incorporated it in my making in that I wanted to have projects that were easy to pick up and put down so that I could create a practice of just working on a specific project, chipping away at it over and over again. Another year I chose the word reframe. Reframe for me as a word of the year was to help me it was to help me to take a look at my own thoughts and beliefs about certain things or my reactions to things and see if there was something to be learned from a negative situation, a situation that made me feel bad, something I didn't like. I would try my best with my words and even with my thoughts. When they would come instinctively in a way that was not helpful, I would try to reframe them to something that was more positive or easier for me to deal with. I use these words of the year loosely in the sense that I'm not constantly beating myself up if I'm not putting them into practice. It's just not helpful for me to beat myself up about it. Yeah, those were my R words for the year, and I seem to be on a theme with that because the last several have included an R word. For 2021, my word of the year is reflect. If you have visited this channel in the last month, you've seen me doing quite a bit of review. I've reviewed my works in progress. I've reviewed my own creative habits. I've been thinking about things that I did last year that I wanted to make a part of my upcoming year. So reflect came to me this morning when I was working on a knitting project because I'm really feeling comfortable doing that reflection. I am feeling like shying away from looking back and reviewing is not helpful. Let me put in a little disclaimer here. I don't believe in spending too much time in my own head. I have days and I have periods of time where it's not very healthy for me to just sit and stew on anything and to really overanalyze things. And I know that, and I work with that. However, I'm taking the word reflect to be one that is encouraging. Reflection as a way to move forward. To reflect so that I can pat myself on the back when that's appropriate. Pick myself up when that's appropriate. And also to acknowledge the things in my life that are good in a moment or felt good at a time and carry that forward. So a healthy reflection, a gentle reflection, that's what I hope to carry into this year for 2021. I don't have any specific tools that I want to use for that, but I'll be thinking about it now that I've chosen the word. Journaling seems to be a good way to reflect. I'll be honest, a lot of my journaling tends to happen when I have some kind of intense, highly emotional reaction to something, and then I want to scribble it all down to get it out. Maybe journaling will be a way for me to reflect on things outside of those intense emotional moments. Talking with people that I trust is another way that I might put this into practice. There are people in my circle of trust who help me to understand things better when I look back at them. So I may try that. Have you done something like this? Have you chosen a word of the year or set an intention for yourself? As always, I welcome in your feedback and your comments. I welcome hearing about whether or not this resonates with you and if you have similar experience or if you have a desire to do something like that. You'll find the community in the comments here at the heyBrownBerry podcast to be very welcoming and encouraging. In terms of making, just one quick thing to share with you. I have had the pleasure of a New Year's Day cast on with my friend Katie Green. We are working on my pattern, the Ritual Shawl. I told you this would come back. The Ritual Shawl is currently my only published shawl pattern. It is a pretty simple triangular shawl knit from the neck down, the top down, and it has a knitted on lace edge. So I love the technique of knitting a border onto the shawl because as you're creating the border, you're also casting off the stitches in the shawl. And that concept was very appealing to me when I made the prototype for this design. Originally, I just knit for myself a shawl where I put some yarn together that I really loved and didn't think at the time anything about creating a pattern. So I was very happy to cast this on with Katie and I'm working with some John Arbin yarn. I'll try to insert some video here so you can just see what it looks like, what I'm working with. I have to say that revisiting my own pattern, I'm feeling good about what I offer to the knitting community in terms of a pattern that is very workable. But since I designed this pattern, I've learned more about pattern instruction. I've learned more about my knitting likes and dislikes. There are just a couple of things that I'm thinking, little things that I've learned in my own knitting since doing the original shawl that might be helpful to a knitter. I do want my patterns to be, I want them to contain things that you can take forward with you into other projects. That's really important to me. So I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about whether or not these little ideas are worth, an update to the pattern. And if they are, I will definitely release that update. And I typically post my pattern information on Instagram when I've done an update or a release. And I sell my patterns on Etsy as well. So if I do come out with an updated version, it'll be pretty easy to find the Ritual Shawl. That's it, friends. I didn't intend to be here long. It is New Year's Day. I'm really happy with how I've spent it so far. I've had the opportunity to connect with a couple of my friends and otherwise just enjoy some quiet time here at the house. I'm forever, forever thankful for that because not every day is like that. Some days are a lot louder. My wish for you is that if you do choose to set yourself an intention of some kind for this year, that it fills you up in some way, even if just the setting of that intention is something you can hold on to. Everything else will come. Thanks for being here with me, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Take care. Bye.